Now I mentioned before that blunt tools can be very hazardous and non-effective, to say the least. So every real tradie should be able to sharpen the tools, no matter what they are. So whether they are chisels, whether they are plane blades, whether they are drill bits and other bits that I haven't got here to show you. So anything that has a cutting edge on it obviously needs to be resharpened when it gets dull or even dangerous. So what I'm going to show you today is how to regrind a chisel that's lost its edge and a plane blade that gets a bit dull. So we take the plane apart and then we take the back plate off, preferably with a screwdriver, because the cap for the screw, for the blade, it's too hard, too soft. It's actually an alloy, and if you do it like that, you could break the whole lot out and ruin it. So try and go for the hard steel to undo the screw that holds the capping plate on the blade. So we take the blade out through the hole. So you've got the blade and the cap with a screw in it that locks it in, and you've got the cap that locks both in together when the process is finished. Now, to identify a tool to be blunt, all you need to do is look at the cutting edge. Now, if there is any reflection along the cutting edge, it's obviously blunt, because a sharp edge does not reflect light. That makes sense, doesn't it? So a kitchen knife that is as sharp as anything, you hold it up and you can't see any reflection because there's no damage on the cutting edge. Same with a chisel, same with a plane blade. So anything that has a cutting edge on it, same with drill bits. Now a lot of people say, oh, I can't sharpen the drill bit, chuck it out. You wouldn't believe it, but I have had fellow tradies in the workshop come to me and say, Frank, can you just grind my chisel for me? I don't know how to do it. I thought, come on, mate. Where are you at? You can't grind a chisel? Anyway, I'm going to show you how to do that with confidence and with accuracy. So first of all, we have a chisel that needs a bit of a curve on it, and I'll show you what that does. When you hold the chisel up against the grinding wheel, you line up the curvature of the chisel from previous grinding so that you can get the same grind back in, and it will re-establish the cutting edge. Re-establish our curvature. There it is there. Lock it into place so it doesn't move, and you just lean it against the grinder. Right. Now that's perfect for a curvature. Now this blade here, it might need a touch up, so I might give that a go too. Again, I lock it in to try and get that curvature. Alright. Beautiful. So again, I've got the curvature in the blade, and I don't need to dunk it because it didn't go black or blue. I try to keep an eye on that. Now once the blade has been ground, it needs to be honed, because on the edge you've got it's like a little furry edge from the steel fragments that have come off the grinding process. I'm going to show you how to hone a chisel virtually to perfection. So take the cap off the ore stone, just put a few drops of oil on here, and then we work it on an angle, so you're only grinding the edge, not the whole curvature. So get it up at the right angle, so it's not like that, but it's right on the edge. And then what you do, try and use the stone all the way along, otherwise it becomes pitted and it won't stay straight and will give you a wrong sharpness later on. So try and use the whole stone from back to front. You need to put a bit of pressure on it. Now what that does, it forces the metal back this way, so it clears the actual cutting edge. Now to get rid of the burr, which is just a series of little metal fragments along the edge, you turn the blade over and use it on the flat, and then you work the stone again, the whole surface. And what you're doing, you're actually forcing the metal back again to where it came from. Then you turn it over again and do that once more. Then over again. And by the time you've done that, say 5, 6, 7 times, depending on how hard the steel is, you will find that the fragment going back and forth is broken off through metal fatigue. And you will see in the oil on the stone a little fragment of metal or of steel that used to be on there. And now that is razor sharp. And just to finish the process, you can take the rest or the last bit of the rubbish off it by honing it up against your hand or your skin. Please try this very carefully unless you get the hang of it. You don't want to cut yourself. I'm only dragging the blade along it. I'm not actually using it that way. It's the same way that barbers use a cutthroat razor on a leather belt. Same principle. So I'm using this on my hand in the same way. I'm getting rid of any fragments that are left on the blade. Ooh, that's nice and sharp. Now, same with the chisel, same principle. You only use the very edge of the chisel, not the surface. And again, using the whole stone all the way along. Yeah, I can feel the burr. Turn it over several times. That will break the burr off from metal fatigue because you're forcing it underneath the flat surface. Yeah, a little bit there. Ah, there it is. I can see the reflection in the oil of the little bit of metal that's come off it. And there's a little bit left. Sharp as a razor. So you've got a tool that is 99% effective and it's not dangerous if it's used correctly. Now, drill bits. Drill bits are very expensive. When you consider what you get for your money, I find them extremely expensive to buy. And when they get dull, you might drill into something like a screw that you can't see, or you hit something hard and you'll take the edge off. And again, you just look at the cutting edge, which is this area here. That edge is the cutting edge, and on the other side that's the cutting edge. Now when you see a reflection of the cutting edge, it's dull. So don't chuck it out, because that'll cost you $12 to replace. And the little ones, believe it or not, they're just as expensive or even more expensive than the bigger ones, purely because of the machining involved. Now this one here is extremely dull. I picked that out of my kit. So I must have hit something hard like concrete. It's taken the edge right off. So I'll show you how to do a drill bit resharpen. See, because a twist drill cuts in a rotating position or rotating function, you need to rotate the drill bit while it's being ground. Otherwise you end up with a flat surface. So you've got to rotate the drill bit. Beautiful. Now this is a 4mm drill bit, and I would not recommend that you try and sharpen the smaller ones, like 3 to 1.5, etc., because they could shatter in your hand because they are so thin and could cause injury. So anything above 4mm to the large ones I showed you before are good to resharpen. But try and stay away from the really small ones, and yes, you have to buy new to avoid injury. Alright, so we've got sharp blades in our plane, in our chisels, and in our drill bits. We can continue on with the job and get it done to proficiency. Now, you can tell from the little mounting block here that there are different types of drill bits available. This one here, it drills a hole and produces a countersink at the same time. So it puts a dent, if you like, or an opening there for the screw head to embed itself in. This is just one of the drill bits I showed you. This one here is what they call a Firstner bit. It drills holes usually for hardware, like hinges. And what I'm going to do now is show you what a spade bit does. And here we have a countersink bit which does the same as that bit on there. So that's a combination drill and countersink. That's just a countersink on its own. But this is the one that sometimes gets a bit dull when it's been used frequently. So I've got one here that I'm just going to show you how to touch it up. Could have a lot of gum and things and stuff still on it from the previous hole. So it'd be a good idea to clean the surface off just with a mill file. And you will often find that it's actually the surface that has the damage on it, not the edge. So when I put this into the vise, what I'm looking for is reflection of those edges, the point and the surface there. So to file the sides too often would obviously decrease the hole that it's supposed to cut. So it's best just to clean off any rubbish that's left over, like gum or anything in the wood, and then you concentrate on the two surfaces that actually do the cutting. Now, the cutting action, very similar to a drill bit, is at an angle. So this angle here, this edge is the actual cutting edge. And on this side it's that edge. So as it twists around in the drill at high speed, they're called, well, some people call them speed bores, others call them spade bits. And that's what they are, they're a speed bore. So you look at the edge and apply the file at an angle, which is the same as the angle on the cutting edge. So I just clean that up. If I can get it to hold on properly. See, notice the angle I've got in comparison to the face. So I'm only sharpening the outside cutting edge, not going straight through and then I've got no cutting edge. Right, so now I turn that round, do the same to that. Right, there's no more reflection on the cutting edges. And on this one it's the same on the tip. Right, the angle of the cut is that way. So again, all I do is clean up the cutting edge. So all I've done is taken the burr on the metal, just clean up a bit of rubbish on there. It doesn't need filing, lest you reduce the actual radius of the cut. So that's basically what's required when you're sharpening spade bits, because they need to be nice and sharp to do the job properly, and they do a terrific job. I use it to install locks in doors, and it really cuts down the time and the effort to put a hole in the door for the barrel to go in for the lock that I showed you. We've learned how to sharpen our tools. There should be no more frustration and fewer injuries, because the tools work well the way they were designed to work. And when you have tools like mine, you obviously have a whole series of files and rasps to maintain the tools and to work on the jobs. Now, if the hole in there were a bit too small for some reason, I've got half round rasps like this one. See, that's half round rasp, one flat, one curved surface. I could go in there and clean the hole out with a rasp if I have to, because sometimes manufacturers make different sized barrels. Could be just a half mil difference, but it's enough to stop the barrel going in effortlessly. Alright, so we got sharp blades in our plane, in our chisels and in our drill bits. We can continue on with the job and get it done to proficiency.